Hey associates. Okay, so for this week's video overview announcements, I am going to walk through several examples just to help you kind of get inspired, have a frame of reference for the concept blogs, which is our Unit 1 project. So you should definitely be identifying the topics that you want to write about or create a video about, and, really start looking ahead and thinking about working on those and getting some of that kind of baseline created. So I'm just going to walk through a few examples. All of these were written examples. Nobody chose to do like a video kind of in the past. So just keep that in mind. But you absolutely, if you are interested in media, you know how to make videos, you like making videos, or you just, want to, that is an option. You don't have to do a written format for it. So take these examples and think more about, the sort of topics and like broad structure. Again, these are just starting points. Ultimately, right? This is something for your portfolio, right? This is going to have your name on it out in kind of the public to help showcase your ability to research, to communicate, and to be a thought leader and just thinking about how tools, tech, or concepts around intercultural, translation, localization, and tech development work. So really, you get to make it your own as long as you just have some of those core skills of researching, identifying context, explaining, talking about applications show up. All right, let's get into it. And so, all right, I'm in my student view, kind of where we are at. And on our little side calendar here, right, we have our Unit 1 project coming up. If you prefer to look at the course schedule, we are in week 4, and so, or I'm sorry, we are starting week 5. And so, I recommend that you really start getting like some drafts of that stuff done. So I'm going to go ahead and look at our Unit 1 project. And I'm not going to talk through everything because you already have an audio explanation that you can listen to of me, talking about it. So, listen to that. Or if you can't listen or you don't want to listen, you can read the transcript of it. But, do that if you need, if you like hearing me talk about what you're going to do. And so just specifically, like, here's some of your examples. So this is what we're going to focus on. I'm just going to kind of show you what's up. But after you get your examples, you'll analyze them and then make sure that you either in a blog or a video, obviously it's just good principles of writing. You are upper division, almost going to graduate soon student. So like, I am assuming that you know how to construct, right? A short blog, a video script, piece of knowledge, your intro, give me some good context, background, what is the topic that you've selected, and then get into your analysis, right? And so what's, again, the rhetorical situation, the impact of this example that you've chosen? Who are the stakeholders, right? Who is going to use it and be, influenced or impacted by this topic, concept, tool you've picked? What is the practicality of it, right? Like, how does it actually relate to the field in your mind maps, right? Each week you've been trying to identify those so what's for the profession and drawing connections from like theory, concepts, examples in the reading and lectures to like, okay, actually, what do we do as professionals? So you will now extend that and sort of show that even further of like, okay, here's actually how it can be used, and connect it to our course materials, and then connections again to theories and sources. So, use the book chapters, use the lectures, use the videos, use your own research, through the library, whatnot, to explain and support, right, your sort of analysis of how this case study works and why it's practical. Like, do the things that upper division pre-professionals should be doing. And then you'll have your conclusion. Again, you can do a written piece or a video, and then you will publish it. So all these, you'll be turning in, so that way you can recycle them for your senior showcase portfolio, or you can recycle them, as links for your LinkedIn or social media, wherever you kind of are trying to do job searching and seeking. In our field, it's not uncommon, right, for them to ask for like samples of work. So this is, a great way where you can just submit that link, with the application materials if somebody is asking for different examples of your writing or content creation. All right, so some examples. Again, you just need to pick anything related to intercultural communication. So it could be news events that you notice are being covered differently. And obviously today we have so much more access to, at least what people, purport to be from different areas, right? How is the UK maybe covering an event in their kind of news circulation compared to us or Canada, or if you are on threads, people that at least claim they're from different countries, like what are they saying, that kind of stuff. Research techniques or new tools. So you can pull new tools. How are we researching, talking about the comm field? If you are interested in like graduate school at all, this would be a good one, to look into, and like what is coming up? What are people researching in our field as we continue our sort of globalization uh, sort of work. A deep dive into some sort of communication in a specific country or media organization. And so, is, I don't know, New Zealand doing something interesting that you have found and noted, and you just want to do a really deep dive into, how they handle maybe communication there and how it's different, or a campaign, right? Especially if you are a little bit more interested in the marketing side of our field or the app design, UX side of our field, how do things change on apps or websites or products when we, move into different locales and areas are all things that you can do. So really, truly, you can pick anything as long as it has some connection to the course materials, what we've been learning, what we've been talking about, right? Intercultural communication, globalization, tech development that leads to, right, more interconnected communication. It really is pretty broad because I do want this to feel impactful for your own portfolio. So pick something you genuinely care about because it's going to represent you out in the public sphere. Okay, so in terms of some examples. Okay, so this is one from a Pepsi campaign. And so this was actually kind of their outline I used to have them do like more of a presentation. I tried doing that in one class that met in person. So this was their outline that then they kind of presented, but basically, right, it's campaign overview, talking about, okay, Pepsi, right, launched this specific campaign here. Why were they, expanding globally? And then we get into some of these like rhetorical elements. What was the challenge with translating it? What went wrong? Why it failed? Right, the context, the practical consequences, and then we get, right, the role here. Again, all of these very practical kind of elements. And so this kind of length, right, if it had been all written out in kind of a narrative, would easily become a really great blog post that you could use. But yeah, this is, think about, right, Pepsi or any of these global companies. Find examples, a case study you find interesting of them changing their slogan because of the intercultural aspects. So that's like an example. Here is, right, a published blog post on AI compliance and standards, right? And so kind of using these machine writing tools within a tech comm situation. And so you can kind of see, we have images, good. This was posted to Medium. And so you can kind of see like the length and the detail of this blog post as we were kind of going in. And right in, because this is, public, they even got, some comments and some like claps. And so you can pick, right, a tool and how this tool, right, is being, specifically applied. And of course, then you would want to relate to how these standards, are global or have to have that intercultural kind of lens to it within our fields. So this is, mostly, right, obviously written portion. And so again, you're just writing a blog post. Like, don't overthink this. You're just writing a blog post to explain, right, the context, the applications, the practical elements of your example. Okay, here's another one. This is on UX and AI, developing user personas. So user personas are, important for our field, and then relate to intercultural communication because we have to use, right, our research, our things like world systems theory and our market research to figure out, right, what those user personas are. And then the students I know how now this new technology and tool, can be used to sort of help us with that. Um, and so, right, kind of what their investigation was. And really they just went through and tested it. So this is more of a technology, kind of case study example that has, a lot more of that, design, writing style into it. They created this little like kind of Giphy scrolling through what the technology was able to create, what they asked, examples, right? And so putting, of course, a lot more kind of design effort into it as a showcase of what they found kind of this tool to be useful at, not useful at, with some of those final thoughts and practicality, right? And some of those sources and further reading. So you can go right in that direction of actually really testing out a tool. This one similarly was really sort of kind of testing out a tool, a little bit less of a direct case study and a little bit more of just a conceptual, like how things are progressing, and how, right, our field can sort of use it. And right, good blog. So there's, headings. We have these tips, right? So these are some of those very practical elements, the so what, that we can start to use and sort of do as a field. Uh, Different attempts, what worked, what didn't work, images, right? Again, it's just a good blog post with some ending with key takeaways. Should our field be using it? How, what, sort of when, why. Cool. Okay, so that's just a quick rundown of a few examples, and it is pretty open-ended, which I know can be like maddening when you're like, just tell me what to do, but like you are about to graduate soon, you're about to go out into the field, and like we don't just tell you exactly what to do often, right? In our types of careers, it's more of like, hey, here's the big picture goal of our content, and it's your right job to sort of bring that to life. And so, take ownership, take agency, trust yourself, and remember this is for your portfolio to show people what you can do, what you can create, while learning about thinking about being a thought leader within intercultural communication, concepts, tools, research, case studies, examples. And so really focus on that. And then there is the rubric right down here. You might have to expand it. So as you are, drafting and writing it up, right, just make sure that you are going through, checking these things. Again, listen to the audio the podcast, or read the transcript of the podcast where I talk very specifically through each of these rubric areas, but also like relax a little bit, show me that you are taking in these intercultural communication concepts, theories, right? Dive back into, anything that you've read so far, lectures so far, your own external research so far about comm development, our industry specifically, computing and how it's changing our field, media and tech literacy, how it's changing our field, that you'll go through this week. And then you can obviously look ahead, standards and practices as well. Things you learned from the media literacy course, how, our code-based knowledge is changing, like any of those things, absolutely fair game. Just find 2 examples, concepts, tools, case studies, and then use, right, all this knowledge to analyze, support, argue, explain, how it represents an advancement or a challenge, or a situation, right, in our professional fields as we start to interact with more people, and turn that in. I recommend doing it by October 4th. Again, it's just a kind of a soft deadline. But that's kind of what I recommend, just so that way you are moving forward and kind of keeping on pace. But if you need to take an extra week, you of course can do that. And do note that starting on October 5th, I actually do have kind of a wellness break built into our schedule. So yeah, even though I kind of recommend, hey, like go ahead and get your blog done, and then you can just literally take the wellness break to chill and recharge. Of course, this wellness break is there, so that way if you need to work on your blog post, you don't have extra readings and all these, case study maps and stuff to do. Instead, you can just focus on finishing up your blog project before we start Unit 2. All right. Thanks, associates. Bye.